about luring people, and he uses what is it? What did you say again?
His fame and his fortune, and not his receding hairline and his protruding belly or nothing like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this is again part of this so-called toxic masculinity narrative that's been debunked. It's defunct.
It's derelict. It's every D word, isn't it?
And the reality is, young girls every year, Kevin said this, every year there's a new batch of young girls being put out onto the market. So to use such crude terms of it. And these young girls have been more hypersexualized than any other generation in history. So for all the feminism that's going on, these young girls, if you look at them, these, what do you call them again? These girls that come on the Snapchat and Instagram.
Oh, the IG model, because we're living in the era of the IG model. Yeah. It was sad. It's kind of sad.
I'm 18 and I'm looking for sugar daddy. Blatantly say it.
What do they call it? OnlyFans generation. IG model fan generation. Yeah,
young girls. They're the most sexualized than any other generation of young girls. So all that equality and fighting for women's rights, burn your bra, don't wear makeup, don't look like feminine, just like a man, look like a man, which feminists was pushing in the 70s, Jermaine Greer and these feminists, has been completely debunked. They're ashamed of this new generation of girls. They want to be idealized. They want to be objectified. They want to be seen as sexy and gorgeous. All the so-called tropes that were told is, because even you were there, I read that they said if you wolf whistle a woman in the street, that's 2 years imprisonment and found guilty. So just as they're trying to, at the same time, remove all of the gender issues on so-called gender stereotypes, which they don't root into evolutionary biology. They seem to think it's being created by men's toxicity. The reality is the girls want to be whistled at. The very things that the feminists are saying law should be put against, these young generation of girls want that. So these young generation of girls, Fink spoke about this. John Peterson mentioned that to some degree. He says the reason why young girls, when they go through puberty, they're ripening themselves. They want to show themselves. That's why the makeup comes about, because the makeup is what represent the apple. So the mascara, the rouge on the cheeks represents the apple. Also, as well, primordially, I don't know if I can say this, the vagina. Can you say vagina on this show?
You've said it now, so if you started, you better finish.
Okay. Well, he's on a primordial level, the vaginal lips during puberty.
Oh, the redness is swelling up, like a kind of sexual availability, or yeah.
Put the lipstick on, yeah.
I've read this. I have read this.
Yeah. Okay. So this was, I don't know if it will offend anybody, but this is what he talks about. So these young girls, that's why a boy at that age of 12, 13, he's not going through puberty as fast as the girl. He's still playing on his bicycle, still playing toys, still playing with his PlayStation. Where this girl's already. Although I must push back a little bit. I think that in the generation that we live in, that the boys are hypersexualized. Also, they may not act out in the same way, but they be busy on TikTok. People think, oh, he's just on TikTok, but he be watching, some of them teenage boys are watching hardcore porn, That's correct. That this generation is the first generation that is the girls. The girls believe that having oral sex is just standard now. Like back, these are things which is young girls don't see this as an issue anymore. 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. The average age to lose your virginity in this country is about 12 now, 12 or 13. That's the average age now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boys are watching hardcore porn, which porn is destructive and it's messing up their perception of healthy relationships in the future.
Very, very troubling times, very troubling times.
Very troubling, and same with these girls. So these girls are going for these guys. So allegedly, Tim Westwood would be at a club, 14, 15-year-old girls would be all around him, and he would take advantage of them because he's a predator. He's a predator. I mean, allegedly a predator. Allegedly, yeah. He's allegedly a predator. The BBC are obviously doing their own inquiry, but like with Jimmy Savile, they have not yet come and condemned him or removed him from his job. They say we're going to look into it. But the BBC is known for protecting predators. I'm not saying he is one, but the BBC is known for that. But the point of the matter is, there are too many women or black young girls that came out of the woodwork and accused this man. And then it begs the question, where was the mothers? Where was these 14-year-old girls going to clubs up until
some of them weren't underage necessarily, but we could maybe classify them as young and vulnerable. Like they could have been teenagers in like 19, so they might have been legally.
But one of them was 14. We know that for a fact.
Okay, and no, I'm saying there would have been a mixture. I'm saying even if they were 19, even if they were overage, they could still be vulnerable young women in the sense where, well, vulnerable girls, 19, vulnerable girls. Like they could find themselves in a situation where maybe they were happy to go along with the party, the after party, but then maybe when they got to the after party, they felt like, you know what?
She said,
I'd rather go home. I'd actually want to leave. And maybe they didn't have that power in their personality to sort of command the situation, and they got swept away with for want of a better term, they just got swept away with and washed away with the scenario.
Yeah, well, look, from what I read, and I quote, she said that I allowed him to have sex with me, or open quote, I allowed him to have sex with me, but I did not consent. But for 2 years, from 14 to 16, I allowed the sex, but it wasn't consensual, end quotes.
Wow.
But there is a point where, why is it, for example, if you have a teenage boy, a particular black boy, for example, who's a schoolboy, caught having sex with a teacher, a white female, for example, who's way older than him, why is it not seen as, the boy's never seen as being, he's seen that, it's a different, because with girls, it's always they're innocent, they don't know any better, and they've been groomed and all this other stuff, right? So it's interesting.
Boys are never really spoken about as victims of sexual assault in those scenarios. Never. I'll push you to find a newspaper article from any major publication to anybody that's listening to this show. I challenge you, if you think that we're creating this double standard that doesn't exist, I challenge you to find a mainstream publication that has spoken about any scenario where a boy has had sex with an underage boy has had sex with his teacher, as that he is a victim of some sort of crime or he's been the victim of sexual assault. I challenge you to find that kind of language used. You won't.
Of course you won't, because the idea is that women are always victims. Whatever age they are, they always continue the victim. Like you see on dating sites, isn't it? And any cheaters or any guy that likes more, the first thing I put, I'm not just here for sex. Well, yeah, because you are. Because every human being is there for sex. We're there for tiddlywinks. You know what I mean? And it's always that I don't keep away from cheaters and liars and all this type of thing. So it's always someone that I'm this innocent woman looking for a date, and it's always these toxic men, but I'm still going to be engaged in the toxic men, looking for a date, but I don't want sex.
You raised some really important points, because you talked about the young girl that said, I allowed him access to me, but I didn't consent, right? So that raises a question of consent. I think we're going to have to come back to this, because this is a very, very potent topic. But also the thing about this damaged inner child, like where if somebody's been through negative sexual experiences, it now makes them vulnerable and susceptible. And it's like the predators can see something in their behavior or something in their demeanor that will make them even more vulnerable, because you'll find that probably, I'm only speculating because I haven't been able to read the court papers of the Robert Kelly trial, but the background of these women, and I don't mean the background as in they were a quote unquote promiscuous, so it means he didn't do anything wrong. I'm not coming from that angle, but I'm saying that maybe somebody had wronged them in the past and they were now psychologically susceptible. Their inner child was damaged. They were suffering from shame. They was feeling worthless. And sometimes people in those psychological states put themselves in situations to try and, heal wounds. And it just becomes like a spiral of creating more of a dangerous situation and falling down a spiral into more hurt, more pain, and more victimhood. Does that make sense? Is that a bit of psychobabble? You follow my drift, bro?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The whole point is, I'm going to be controversial on it. I think some young girls know exactly what they're doing, exactly target men. And there was a case about 3 or 4 years ago in which this young teenage girl did this, had an affair with a teacher, tried to make him leave his wife. And then that judge actually said, he let the guy off and said, this girl was a predator. He called the teenage girl a predator who knew exactly what she was doing, who was very sexually mature for her age, whatever, and had done this repeatedly. So some people will just do it because they can. Now, that doesn't mean all girls are like that. No. And should a man who knows this is illegal take advantage of that? No, he shouldn't.
Yeah. He still broke the law. He still broke the law. He has still broken the law.
He's still breaking the law. However, this teacher did break the law, but the judge said in this case, she was a predator. So she broke the law of what he called a moral code about a man being married. Now, maybe people have issues with what the judge said. That's not. Was
the girl underage? Because I remember there was something that was mentioned on Newsnight.
Who was his teacher? She was 15.
Oh, okay, no, because I know there was a case where a girl was 16, and I think it was David Starkey talked about it. And I very rarely agree with David Starkey. He's a bit of a interesting personality, David Starkey, that blamed a lot of negative things in British culture on black culture.
It's the same case. The girl was 16 at the trial, but she was 15 when they.
Okay, because he did say something where he said to the audience, right?
He agreed with the guy with the ruling, didn't he? But this guy
he made a point, right? Case in point, where he said that teenagers in this country, for example, in society goes, they're a lot more sexually clued up and aware than we would like to admit to, or we're comfortable admitting. So it's almost like we need these kind of polarizing situations where good and evil are just very clear apart, but sometimes it's nuanced. But once you broke the law, you done out there. As far as I'm concerned, you done slid down a razor blade into alcohol river. So I've got no accommodation.
Yeah.
I've got no accommodation for men that want to break the law, or women. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that there is that human beings have a shadow side. You know, psychoanalytical literature talks about our shadow side and our drives and our desires and stuff like that. And so it becomes a little more complex than just good and evil. But we definitely clear that we got lawbreakers, they're done out here, but there's a lot more to explore. I want to come back though. We're gonna have to finish because we run out of time, but I really want to come back and hopefully next week we can discuss what is consent, because I think that's a really interesting and very relevant topic to discuss. And maybe we could look at a little bit inner child as well. But I really appreciate you coming through the studio, bro, and hope that we can chop it up again sometime. Yes.
Thank you so much once again for the opportunity to spread as much knowledge as I can. May the all bless everybody in the social media world, and I hope to be with you again next week.
All right, my bro. One love.
Peace.